Hello and welcome to Every Change Epic Makes from the Odyssey, Part 1, the Troy Saga. We'll be taking a journey through both Epic the Musical and the Odyssey, looking at all the differences between them, and hopefully it won't take us 10 years to finish it. For those of you who don't know what Epic is, I'm not sure why you clicked on the video, but anyway, it's an incredible musical currently being made by Jorge Rivera Herranz that's a loose adaptation of the Odyssey. Emphasis on loose because the Odyssey is a 3,000-year-old epic poem, which would be told over the course of multiple days to an ancient Greek audience. Turning that into a 2-hour musical, which is to be performed to a modern audience, is quite a task, and surely does require some changes. But for me at least, it can get a little hard to keep track, so I'll be making these videos one saga at a time. Sagas, by the way, are groups of between 3 to 5 songs that Jorge releases at one go. I'll also try to group these changes into different categories, such as the following: expanding on the key themes of the musical, namely the idea of ruthlessness versus open arms, adapting the text into the form of a musical, and making Odysseus a more likeable character. Trust me, a surprising amount is going into this one. Please listen to the Troy Saga before watching this, as each video will contain spoilers for the one it's about and the ones before it, as well as potential spoilers of parts of the Odyssey and future sagas, but I'll try to mark them and I apologise in advance of any slip through. Alright, with that out of the way, here we go. Alright, side note before we begin, to anyone who isn't aware, there are 2 versions of the first 2 sagas. These are the versions of the Troy and Cyclops saga that actually pay Jorge when you listen to them. They're mostly the same, but have slightly different instrumentation, and are honestly harmony heaven. With that being done, here we go, into the first song, The Horse and the Infant. Oh no? There are changes before the first song? What? Fine, it's time to talk about the narrative structure of the Odyssey. The Odyssey is split into books, which are basically chapters, and we don't actually meet Odysseus himself until book 5. Before that, the story is about Telemachus, Odysseus' son, and how him and Odysseus' wife, Penelope, are dealing with the suitors who have basically invaded Odysseus' palace and are staying there until Penelope chooses one of them to marry. This is because it's been 10 years since the Trojan War ended, and they all think Odysseus is dead. Odysseus doesn't actually talk about his journey and everything he's endured in these 10 years until book 8, when he tells the Phaeacians his story in a massive flashback. So here's change number 1. Epic goes in chronological order, starting at the end of the Trojan War. Telemachus and Penelope's story only starts in Act 2. I'd say this change helps the musical stay easy to understand in terms of structure, and also helps to heighten tension during Odysseus' trials, because we experience them with him, rather than just hearing him talk about them. Now for real this time, the first song, The Horse and the Infant, let's go. Epic opens at one of Odysseus' biggest claims to fame, the Trojan horse. It goes on to name-drop all the famous Greek kings. I refrain from calling them heroes because that, in a modern context, implies they were at least 1% good, and not all of them held up to those standards. But hey, I'm not going to name names. Agamemnon. Not all of those mentioned in Epic were actually in the horse as well. For example, Nestor and Agamemnon were not listed as in the horse by any source. They were probably just named because the audience knows their names. And anyway, then chaos ensues. In the middle of this, Zeus tells Odysseus that he has to kill the son of Hector, who's the Prince of Troy, and here we find not 1 but 2 changes. Depending on the version you read, it could be either Neo, son of Achilles, or Odysseus who throws the baby from the walls of Troy. As well as this, it's only in Epic where it's the will of the gods that Astyanax has to die. So I guess it could be argued that the first change, making Odysseus kill the baby instead of Neo, drives the themes of the musical, as the murder of Astyanax is the first ruthless act we see Odysseus commit during the musical, and the second is making Odysseus a more likeable character, as he's only doing this because he has no choice. Moving on to Just a Man, this song shows Odysseus' hesitancy to harm Astyanax, but he chooses to kill them in the end anyway, because he wants to get home to Penelope and Telemachus. This unwillingness to kill Astyanax is honestly not a quality I would expect from the original Odysseus, so Jorge definitely needs to make that change so that we can still like Odysseus during the rest of the musical. Now, full speed ahead into the next song of the saga, Full Speed Ahead. This song opens by establishing the aims of Odysseus and his crew. They all want to reach Ithaca, preferably alive. We'll see how that goes. One change that I guess would technically come under Full Speed Ahead is the raiding of Ismarus, which actually was at one point part of Epic, but not anymore. The next big change that Full Speed Ahead makes is making Polites, Odysseus' bestie, actually exist for more than 2 lines. That's right, in the original Odyssey, he's only mentioned twice. This is probably mainly to set him up as the personification of open arms, which honestly really needs an ambassador, because you can see how many characters lean on the side of ruthlessness. Polites directs the crew towards an island they see, which we eventually learn is the island of the Lotus Eaters, which adds some nice cause and effect to Epic because in the Odyssey they kind of just land there, as they do with most of the other places. But anyway, Odysseus and Polites go to see if they can get enough food for 600 very hungry men from a teeny tiny island, and then we get into open arms. A few big changes here. First, Polites gives Odysseus a TED talk on why he should be nicer to everyone and greet the world with open arms, which would never happen in the Odyssey, even if Polites did get more than 2 mentions. But again, this just sets him up as the foil to the ruthless characters we will meet later. Plus, this establishes him as the most adorable little cinnamon roll in the musical, which was definitely not done to make our hearts hurt at any point. What are you doing here, Cyclops Saga? Surely you're not relevant in any way. Then they reach the island of the Lotus Eaters, where we meet the adorable little Winions. These are a creature unique to Epic, who do come up again later, but honestly this change doesn't serve much purpose other than it being super cute and funny. Instead of the crew eating the lotus fruit like they do in the poem, with Odysseus having to drag them off the island, Odysseus recognises the fruit before anyone eats it. Polites asks the Lotus Eaters where there might be another source of food, and they are directed to a cave. Scary cave. Cyclops Saga, what are you doing here again? You're not relevant yet. This is completely different. We're still on the Troy Saga. So, yeah, this is a nice way to link events in the musical together so it's not too much of Odysseus and the crew randomly land on a mysterious island, over and over again for 2 hours. In the end, based on this 3.5-minute interaction, Odysseus has decided that the open arms lifestyle is for him, but a certain someone is not happy about that. Please give a warm welcome to our badass in the arena, unmatched witty and queen of the best strategies we've seen, goddess of wisdom, master of war, Athena. Bestie is not pleased that Odysseus seems to be considering the open arms mentality, reminding him that he is a special warrior and important to Athena because, unlike other heroes, Odysseus actually possesses more than one brain cell. We get a nice flashback here to the story of Odysseus and the boar, which Athena and Epic suggests that she herself sent, and apparently they even had a little chat afterwards. But in the Odyssey, the boar that Odysseus hunts is a perfectly normal one, which he was injured by when he was hunting with his grandfather. As well as this, the warning that Athena is essentially giving Odysseus in this song, don't mess up or do anything stupid because you perceive it as merciful and the good thing to do, is different to the Odyssey, in which Athena unconditionally does all the work for Odysseus. I'd say that this change helps make Odysseus more likeable, because a modern audience probably wouldn't be able to tolerate Athena just doing everything for him. I mean, what is this, the Athena Sea? But anyway, I'm sure Athena's warning definitely isn't something that Odysseus needs to think about, or anything that will be important later on. Cyclops Saga, what did I say about not yet? Wait your turn, just like all the other good sagas. Be gone. Oh god, sagas these days, I'll tell you. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, entertaining, maybe even both. If I left out something or got it wrong, please do let me know in the comments. Anyway, here's my list of top 10 monsters from Greek myth. At number 10, the Cyclops.